And we're live! Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So you guys have requested so much for Trevor to come on my channel more. So since it is my birthday and I'm on the East Coast now, we're not long distance right now, I thought that it would be the perfect time to bring Trevor on. You guys always have so many questions for him, especially regarding my bipolar disorder and what it's like dating someone who is bipolar. It's also my 26th birthday today, which is crazy that now I'm officially in my mid to late 20s, which is crazy. So we're going to start by answering some of your questions. Hi, Alexander. Hi, Happy Dog. Hi, Caitlin. Hi, Lizzie. Thank you guys so much. I knew that tonight call with like a ton of my college friends, so I knew that I also wanted to celebrate with you guys because you guys are like the longest relationship in my life. I've been doing YouTube for 10 years and a lot of you have been there the entire time. Thanks, Logan. Hi, Julius. Hi, Rated Murda. So how's Trevor doing? Do you have anything you want to say to them? Have you missed them a lot?
I don't really miss you guys because I'm on the YouTube channel all the time in the comments. So with my disguises, but I definitely do not miss you guys, but I'm glad to be here.
So basically every single live stream, Trevor has like accounts that don't say Trevor on him. So he's moderating for me and he's reading your comments and he's in the comment section of my videos and replying to people in the comment section if they bully me or are mean. So
I get pretty triggered. So I get pretty triggered.
Yeah, we don't use the word trigger. That's a mental illness term. So, okay. So Trevor, how much older than Lizzie are you? That's a good question.
I'm like 4 years older than her.
It's hilarious. Like I always make jokes like, oh, when I was in first grade, you were in middle school. Like I always make jokes like that. But he is 29 and turning 30 in November. So we're like 3.5 years apart, basically. Which I don't think it's that weird of an age gap. Do you guys think that's that weird? Hi, Common Sense America. Hi, Caroline. What are you doing for your birthday? So tonight, one of my best friends from college lives in Singapore, which is like 12 hours time difference apart from Eastern time. So tonight I'm doing a Zoom party with some of my friends. So we're just going to go on for 2 hours and hang out with each other. Because of COVID, I wasn't able to travel to visit anyone, which was really sad. So, well, obviously him, but I have not been exposing myself to any of my friends. So I felt like it was safe to visit one person for my birthday. Hi, Raul. Thank you for the donation. A little birthday cake. That's really sweet. You should get a gun. What is that in reference to? Is it stalkers I've talked about before? Go to the range.
I'd love to go to the range with you, man.
Alexander says, oh no, I hear it's very common for men to be older than women. Yeah, it's not that weird. Common Sense America says you should open a business up in Singapore online. Interesting. I'll tell my Singapore friend that. I find it kind of odd. But Alexa says, happy birthday, Lizzie. Thank you. I'm actually like philosophically opposed to citizens owning guns. Like not politically, like I wouldn't want to take away people's rights. But I wish that we could have a country with 0 guns. That would be like so ideal to me because I'm very, very, very against violence. Like I don't even like watching violence on movies or TV shows. I kind of grew up without that. So
it severely limits what we can watch. Tell me, it's
yeah,
awful.
I was talking to one of my best friends a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Yeah, it must be really hard dating Lizzie, dating someone who doesn't like watching TV."
It's the worst part. It's the worst part. I like horror movies a lot, so sometimes I like throw ideas at her, and she's just like, "That's violent." Yeah. Is that beautiful? Is that pure? I'm like, no, it's not, but it's really fun.
Caitlin, you guys should go subscribe to her channel. She just started a YouTube channel. Thank you for the emojis and the donation. That's so sweet. Hi, Ellie. Thank you for the donation. Why don't you just get engaged already and give her a ring from anvil.com? What is anvil.com? I will screenshot that and look it up later.
I'm working on it. We're working on it.
Have you been to Canada? I have been twice. Have you been to Canada?
Yeah.
Where did you go in Canada?
Just BC to go to the airport.
Okay. I went to Victoria with some of my college friends during a spring break trip, and then I went to Alberta and Calgary when I did a speaking event a couple years ago. So I love Canada. Actually, after I went to Canada for my speaking event, I wanted him to apply for PhD programs in Canada. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I was really serious about it just because I think their healthcare system's a lot better. I had kind of a medication scare where I forgot my meds, and they got me my bipolar meds within like a half of a day. So I was like, wow, this would never happen in America. So that was like one of the things. Not much regulation in Singapore business-wise. Interesting, because they're like totalitarian. I would think they would have loads of regulations. Okay. Happy 26th birthday. It's my 21st birthday. Happy birthday. Glad we share a birthday. Why not? Do you play video games? I am like philosophically opposed to video games as well, but in college, some of my friends changed my mind that it's like a bonding thing for a lot of guys and some women. But what do you like to play?
I play I like neo-medieval games, like games that have a medieval vibe to them, but are just like a Skyrim. I'm a big Skyrim fan. I love Kingdom Come Deliverance is a newer one. I could go on and on, but I am definitely not philosophically opposed to video games. That's a little strong for me. I think it's helpful in moderation. It's not all I do. It's just like if I want to blow off steam, why not go pretend that I'm in the Middle Ages and go to a beautiful church that's in the game? You know, why not?
Yeah, I've seen him playing video games before, and there's this one, and it's like Catholic. So every time people greet you, they're like, God be with you, God be praised. Like every time they say hello, it's so sweet. Firearms are the equalizer. This is probably already demonetized since you guys are talking about guns. So thank you. One of the reasons I love the Catholic Church, and it is very difficult for a Jew in the Holy Land to become Catholic. Alexander said, I saw the Milky Way last night. What is that? I really liked today's video. I wasn't aware of the situation in the US, Vicky says. Yeah, so if you guys missed it, I just uploaded a video earlier today talking about all the attacks on Catholic churches, desecration of our art, churches being set on fire. A lot of stuff has been happening in the US and other countries as well. You were saying that in France, how many a year?
It's not a year. She keeps, every time I say that there were 1,000 vandalisms against the Catholic Church in France in 2019, she keeps saying, oh, every year there's 1,000?
No,
I said 2019. I didn't say 2018. I didn't say 2020. I said 2019.
Anyways, there's a lot. So it's not just going on in the US, it's worse in other countries. And I talked about France and Poland in the video as well that have had recent vandalism. So I'm glad you guys like the video. It's important to be gentle and chill and pray from, wow. Hide user on this channel. So this
Thanks for the donation.
Yeah, thank you for the donation for sure. Please pray for peace in the Holy Land. What is your ethnicity? You've done a DNA test, right?
Yeah. So you okay? I got mostly Welsh, Irish, and Scottish. So I'm like super white.
Yeah, and when I was in Ireland, his Catholicism, like his essence of Catholicism is very similar to how Ireland is today. So I feel like I understood him more going to Ireland. I'm getting back and on bipolar meds Friday. Yay! And I'm back in RCIA as of today. I've been vegan for a few days. I hope to be doing much better in a month or so. Thank you for your advice and example. Aw, well, welcome home to Catholicism. I'm so happy you're vegan as well. That makes me so happy. You're gonna love Catholicism so much. Michelle Sunshine Star says, hey Lizzie, happy birthday. I'm talking to my case manager. I hope everything goes well. The Milky Way is the galaxy where the Earth is. How do you not know that? I saw the look on Trevor's face. I know what the Milky Way is. Like, I thought you were talking about like a movie or like a TV show. I didn't know you meant like a telescope. Is that what he's talking about? Like he had a telescope.
I was like, how do you not know what the Milky Way is?
I know what the Milky Way is. I was just like so confused what that was talking about. Okay, you two are so funny together. Does Trevor play Minecraft or Pokemon? Have you ever?
I played Pokemon when I was like in 5th grade. I know that there's a very it's not restricted to that age group, but that's when I played it. So it's not no slide against you.
No judgment.
No judgment. I think my younger brother Jason, he's 26. He plays it. But I also did go through a Minecraft stage, but I just I build something and then I just don't know what to do. There's not like a lot of like missions and goals and story stuff. So the story element is really what draws me to video games. So
can I just say, I think you got your brother's age wrong.
Yeah, he's 27.
So this is a thing where like older siblings don't know how old their younger siblings are, and even your nieces, I know how old they are and you don't. You always mess it up because I'm a younger sibling.
Intentional. So I just have to think about it for a second. I have like I always remember like the last time I tried to remember it, which was a while ago. So.
Javier, hey, happy birthday, Lizzie. What do you think of the theory that Martin Luther was bipolar? Absolutely not. He was not bipolar. He had generalized anxiety disorder, some depression. He also fell off a horse and had some brain injuries going on, so that could contribute to the anxiety or depression. Maybe it wasn't genetic. Maybe it was caused by falling off the horse, but he certainly wasn't bipolar. Please don't bring him into the bipolar camp. Joseph Smith was bipolar, 100%. Martin Luther King Jr. was bipolar. Kanye West is bipolar, but not Martin Luther. Someone also asked what we think about Kanye running for president. So I personally think he's in a manic episode. It just makes sense with the way he's talking. And Halsey, this musician who's also bipolar, she was like ranting on Twitter yesterday to not make fun of him because he's sick. So we shouldn't like make it into a joke. What are your thoughts on him running for president?
I don't know. Did you see Kim Kardashian West's Twitter thing this morning? She talked about it. She did a whole thing about not judging Kanye and that bipolar people deserve dignity. That's what she talked about. So.
Wow.
I don't know. Really I have no opinion about it, and I don't waste my time to think about stuff like that. Which scene?
Do you think Muhammad was bipolar? I don't think so. Wait, you said both Martin Luthers? Sounds confusing. No, so like Martin Luther, who left Catholicism and started the Protestant Reformation, not bipolar, anxiety, depression. Martin Luther King Jr., the civil rights activist in the US, had a bipolar disorder. A saint has seen a vision of Martin Luther in hell. The church knows that he's there. So we actually are agnostic about, not like agnostic whether or not God exists, but agnostic when it comes to who's in hell and who's in heaven, unless they're a canonized saint. So I don't think it's wise.
Well, this person's talking about private revelation. So I'm not like private revelation exists, but my theological preference is to be agnostic about whether someone's in hell or not. I think Lizzie's the same way.
Yeah, we honestly just don't know. I feel like the church encourages us to not be like, that person's definitely in hell. Sure. I feel like we're not supposed to talk about that. Did you see his Twitter this morning? No, I don't go on social media that much.
I saw it.
Okay. Happy birthday, Lizzie. Many blessings to you. Thanks, Debbie. That's my mom's name. Is that real? Yeah, finally a Lizzie's live stream in a decent European time. Happy birthday, Lizzie. Thank you. Yeah, because I'm talking to my parents and my friends tonight, so I had to find a time in the middle of the day. Exactly. It was a mystical vision. Private revelations are not dogma. Yep. Anya says, oh, yes, happy birthday. Carolina says there's a lot of anti-Catholicism now, a bit scary. Yeah, my video just uploaded today where I talked about all the attacks on Catholicism. It actually made me really sad to film. Usually stuff doesn't get to me, but that video got to me where I was starting to get really sad and upset and like offended and hurt by watching the clips of everything that's happened. What has your reaction been to it?
To what?
To all the desecrations.
Oh, I try to ignore it. I am a very glass half empty kind of person. So I like, well, maybe that's not right. I'm realistic. I like Augustine a lot. So I don't know if any of you theology people in there like draw the connections that you will. But I also try not to dwell on bad things, especially since there are thousands of churches in the United States, and these vandalisms are happening and they're increasing, and that's something that I want to note. But I'm not going to dwell on it because I'd rather like work on something else. I have a lot of other things I'm really worried and stressed about. So like I think humans can only be worried and stressed about like a couple things, and we're not designed to like worry about the whole world. So I try to like keep in my sphere. Yeah.
Christina, thank you for the donation. She says happy birthday. When y'all marry, will you consider owning some private property and have a garden? My great-grandparents grew up that way. My family had a garden growing up. Did yours?
We tried a couple times. We found out years later that it was because my mom insisted on planting pumpkins in the garden, so it was right next to everything else. And if you know about gardening, pumpkins kill and devour everything around them. Not like in a violent way, but like they just suck the life out of the soil. So our garden kept dying, and we never knew why. And then years later, so I'd love to have a garden though. I think my dad tried to do it too.
We had pumpkins in my garden. Maybe it was like bigger, but they did not suck up all the plant. We had pumpkins here, and then like corn here, and then like kale here, and then like beans. So maybe there was more space, but we had like 15 pumpkins one year.
Oh, weird.
So
Okay.
yeah, I think we had more soil. So that's a good point. Like spread them apart. I had no idea. So I guess it was lucky. Question for Trevor Murdoch. How good is Pepperdine University? Would you recommend it?
I would. I had if I could, I've attended several schools. So I've attended my undergrad, Hope. It was called Hope. Pepperdine was my first master's degree. I went to Vanderbilt. I'm at Villanova now. So Villanova's close. I like Villanova as the general campus itself, but Pepperdine, I had such a good experience there. Just feeling like supported and like my department was interested in what I was doing, talked well of me. And the job I had there was really helpful. So like, I often say like I would give, if I had like a bunch of money, if I won the lottery, I would give, like Pepperdine would be on the top of that list of what I would give to. So it's like a very, one of the few universities too that isn't ashamed of its Christian identity. So that's another positive thing.
Yeah, the community is amazing. It's like a giant family. It's like heaven on earth. Everyone loves each other and is there for each other. Like if you're in public, like crying or something or look sad, people will come up to you and be like, "Are you okay? Like what's going on?" Like everyone's just very sacrificial there. But I mean, some people have bad experiences, but we both had a really great experience. We just ended up finding like really great people there. Today is the feast of St. Mary Magdalene. Yes, I know that. So I think that my computer is gonna die. So can you go grab my charger in the other room? Yeah, and I don't know how we plug it in here, but I assume you have
I'll figure it out.
Technique. Okay. There's a church on Villanova campus. Yes, I've seen it. It's really beautiful. There's actually 2 churches. There's like the main one when you're going across the bridge, and then there's a smaller one that's so cool that has like a ton of stained glass and everything that I really, really love. Another reason people find it difficult to be Catholic is because they feel they are betraying Jewish identity and the victims of the Holocaust.
Is this it?
Yeah, this is the charger. Thank you. That would be sad if the computer died in the middle of it. So the new computers, they only give you like 10 seconds before it's about to die. They're like, about to die, plug in. And then like it dies like 10 or 30 seconds later. So I just wanted to make sure because the battery was going down. Trevor, what drew you towards Augustine and what made you pick him as your confirmation saint?
Augustine is just so realistic about life. People call him pessimistic and stuff. I just think he cuts through all the crap of people. You know, people have like, people throw up when you ask them questions about themselves, about what they love, what they hate, all these things. We throw up all these like false answers that aren't getting to the core of what our hearts desire. And Augustine is just so clear about what we desire and why we don't desire it and why like we run from it. So that kind of clarity, I think theology, especially academic theology, really needs. And I just resonate with that, like that kind of like just calling your shots really, clearly and often beautifully. So.
And Trevor has an Augustine relic that's literally right here. So that's amazing.
Yeah, that Lizzie gave me.
Yeah, I was gifted it by a priest and then I gave him his patron saint's relic. So that's crazy. We already talked about Trevor's ministry.
My ministry.
When you were Protestant, did you know more about Mary or Mary Magdalene? Probably Mary Magdalene, to be honest. I feel like Protestantism just does not focus on the Virgin Mary. I never once heard a sermon or a Bible class about her, which is crazy because I grew up my entire life for like 22 years in Protestantism and was at church like multiple times a week for my whole life. So I don't know what the deal is. Roan just says, happy birthday. Hope you have a nice day. Flaviana says, happy birthday, Lizzie. I pray that God bless you with all happiness in the universe. May you prosper and shine everywhere you go. May you have all the joy in your heart today is here today. Thank you, heart emoji. Thank you so much. That's so sweet. Okay, let's scroll up and see some comments that we may have lost. How will you support Lizzie when she is in a low mood? Caroline asks. So when I'm in depression with my bipolar disorder, how do you support me?
It's a work in progress. Sometimes it's kind of difficult. I've actually not experienced it that often. There's maybe like 3 times where she was kind of close to that, like what you were saying, but she's just always so like hypomanic or manic that like I just rarely ever experience that. And a few times, like maybe like the first 1.5 times, I responded in a very bad way because I just, you know, it's like a learning process, and adapting to like emotions or like even words that she says that if I heard from someone else, I'd be like, that's not cool or that's weird. But knowing more about her and knowing more about bipolar disorder, like it's a learning process where you're like, oh, I should respond differently. So that's a hard learning process. So I've made mistakes, I think, but I've constantly trying to respond better and just trying to be gentle and patient. And being patient is a big struggle of mine. So it's like God testing me and making me a better person. I feel like I swear you have to like find the silver lining sometimes, and that's one of them.
But to be honest, I've never been in a depression episode in our entire relationship in 3 years, just because I'm medicated. So I'm, like you said, I'm in a manic state. So that's annoying, but
it poses other problems.
Okay. Where do you like to live in your future together? Ha ha ha. Thank you, Fatima. Fatima is one of my top subscribers.
I remember.
So it honestly depends like on where he gets a job. Obviously, Trevor's in this program on the East Coast for another 5 years.
5 years.
5 years. So yeah. What do you think is the best way to convince atheists? I think you have to pray and pray and pray and pray. I say that with conversions of everyone, but I think someone who's stubborn about it, even if they receive the absolute best evidence, like they're not going to convert unless they're in like a good emotional space.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an Augustinian on that too. People only have faith because God gives them grace to have faith. So, but I think at the same time, like approaching it through the moral lens, like a moral approach. I've never had any success in terms of conversation with people when I approach it through like a purely intellectual mode, because a lot of the objections that people have against Christianity aren't necessarily intellectually based. A lot of people leave the church or leave the faith without having really done any research on that it's true. So for me, I always like try to like clarify what their objections are, and because sometimes a lot of atheists, it's good that they don't believe in the God that they did. So like a lot of people, like the God that a lot of atheists deny is an idol or some kind of like
it's just not God.
It's just not the God that Christians worship. And so like in a way they can clarify like what we don't believe, and I think that's one way to do it. And the other way is make them familiar with like the basic results of atheism, which is nihilism. And there are other philosophical answers to that issue, but I think like pointing out like what happens to values, how is you really believe that it's all morals are revisionist, or because we talk about I don't want to get into too many politic things, but a lot of things about like social constructs in today's political discourse and stuff. It's like, well, if atheism is true, then morality is a social construct. And so that when people realize that, I think it can make them uncomfortable. And so I just want to ask them why they feel uncomfortable. And that's to me like digging deep into, well, maybe you believe deep down because at least this is what the Christian faith teaches, which is that God sets eternity in our hearts. And so you believe that there's morality, and you strongly believe it because you were created by God to believe that. Like, so it's eternity is on your mind. So that's kind of how I would approach it. But yeah, the like cosmological proofs and all those other things, cool and helpful, but not always what grips people. So
yeah, people are more emotional than they realize. Heather says, Trevor, would you consider yourself a Republic Catholic or a monarchist Catholic?
I would say neither. I'm really in the middle of really like going through all of my political beliefs and restructuring them. I do like monarchy a lot. So Heather, that's the thing. But I just, in terms of like political realism, I'm not sure if like that's going to happen in America now. I don't see that happening. So that's kind of what pushes me away from that perspective. But I do believe that there's a fundamental like the truth issue for like democracy versus monarchy. That there's an epistemological issue there that is worth talking about.
David Kelly, thank you for the donation. Hi, Lizzie. Thank you for all you do. So nice to see and hear you both. May God bless you with joy, happiness, peace, and perseverance in the faith. That is so sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the reasoned answer. I'm really glad you answered me. Maybe you'll make more videos together. Trevor, have you read Confessions by St. Augustine? How many copies of Confessions do you own?
Like 5. Yeah.
5 copies of Confessions. And the audiobook Confessions too.
Jeez. That, by the way, guys, her response to that might be loud to you. To me, it's super, super loud. Okay. So, but yeah, like I have several different translations of the Confessions. A lot of them are like translations from different stages of my development. Actually, one of the first theological books I was ever given was by my friend Gary, who's a Calvinist, because Calvinists really like Augustine too. And he gave me the Confessions, which is funny because it actually like was one of the things that helped open Catholicism to me. So.
Is there anything you wish you had known before your first Catholic Mass? I would have liked to know to not receive the Eucharist if I was not Catholic. No one told me that. I had to go to Mass for a class project in my church history class at Pepperdine, and I received the Eucharist because the priest, no one told me there, like not even my professor who was not Catholic. So I look back and it's so, so, so sad because I received the Eucharist like irreverently. Like I didn't even know that it was Jesus. So what about you?
I'm not sure if there is anything I would want to know. Just because of when I went to Mass at the particular time I did, it like gripped me in a certain way that I'm not sure it would have done if I knew more. I mean, I did receive the Eucharist irreverently because I wasn't. No one talks about it. So I received the Eucharist, and at that time I said I'm taking the Eucharist. You know, so it's and my Eucharistic theology transformed after that experience. So again, like I don't know how much I would change because I'm happy to be where I am.
Yeah. Hope says, happy birthday, Lizzie. So cool to be a part of the church with both of you. God bless you. Thank you. Carolina says, why do you think Catholicism is the true faith? Oh, before we do that, everyone thumbs up the video, like the video. It helps my place in the YouTube algorithm, which I need because YouTube tries to cut down theology content a lot. So why do you think Catholicism is the true faith? Because historically we can trace back Catholic theology all the way back to the early church, like all the Mary theology, the Eucharist, bishops, infant baptism. It just lines up with the 2nd and 1st century church. Oh, big donation. Oh, I don't know how big it is because it's a different currency. Fatima, thank you for the donation. So that looks like $200 in American money, which is like so much money. But I think in Mexican currency, it's a different amount. Do you know the current exchange rate?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't know either. Have you been? We've both been to Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to just like the touristy part. You went to more of like authentic?
I mean, I went to Mexico. I don't know.
There are 10 dislikes. Do you hold to the Thomistic understanding of divine simplicity? If so, how do you respond to the
The EO argument. You'd have to explain what the EO is.
Yeah. We can find another question to answer.
I do hold to the Thomistic notion of divine simplicity, though.
Would you want to read it?
Would you like to learn Hebrew to read the Old Testament in original language? I have learned Hebrew. My first master's degree actually was in the Old Testament. So that was at Pepperdine, actually. That was what I studied at Pepperdine. And then I went to Vanderbilt and I studied more ancient Near East stuff. I actually have a forthcoming article that has to do with Aramaic letters in Egypt from the 5th century. So Aramaic is my main gig, but Hebrew is a close second.
Alexander says, in regards to Trevor owning 15 confession copies, what do you need?
5.
Why do you need so many versions of the same book?
Yes, like the Bible, exactly. So you're, if you knew how many Bibles I had,
there's like 20 Bibles over there.
Yeah. But because we're reading something that is originally written in another language, because I'm not reading it in Latin, which I'm currently working on doing right now, and because like every translation is an interpretation, so I want to know what Augustine said, and so the best way I can do that without a fluency in Latin is to read a bunch of different translations of the same book that he wrote. And in that sense, you're getting different snapshots of this person's interpretation of Augustine. Now, reading it in Latin is the best way to make your own interpretation of what Augustine said. And again, like that's what I'm working on right now. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. UCME Rollins says, Trevor, can you speak Latin for us, please? Do you want to share your favorite words?
Well, I have a phrase for you. Quando haec est catholica fides. This is the Catholic faith.
Cool. Anything else you can say?
In Latin? Salvus. I don't know. I could just say random vocab words, which salvus means, and that's a classical pronunciation, is the word for safe or sound is where we get salvation from. Or salvation comes from, there's another word, salve, but.
Okay, this is a good question. Happy Dog says, Lizzie, this is a question I have been thinking about for a long time. If rich people can't go to heaven, as Jesus said, that's not what he meant, what about monarchs? They are most of the time very rich. So do you want to answer that question? He said that he was implying like it's really, really hard for a rich person to get to heaven. So the eye of the needle passage, the eye of the needle was like a physical gate. And so a camel with like tons of baggage couldn't fit through the gate. So it meant you couldn't rely on material possessions. It didn't mean like literally the camel fitting through the eye of a needle. So what are your thoughts on that Bible passage? I think
that rich people can certainly go to heaven. It just is harder. It's way hard because of how much power you have. The temptation of wealth to be idolatrous is extremely high. But also, there was this is kind of intense. So try not to, if it offends you, I apologize. But I think that if you have a lot of money and you hoard it, that's a good sign that you're going to go to hell. Like, that's just the way it is. If you have a lot of money and you hoard it, you're going to be joining Satan pretty soon. Like, that's just the way it is. And some people in the Middle Ages took it that way. I think that's a good way to look at it. Like that, because we often hoist honors and prestige upon people who hoard wealth, who are the richest people in the world. But if you're the richest person in the world and you're not sharing that wealth in a way like giving money to charities, giving all your wealth away, and again, like living well, you deserve the fruits of your labor. So it's not communist. Private property, it's a great thing. But again, like if you're hoarding it, that's, St. Ambrose talked about like that extra cloak you have belongs to the poor person that so I think there's like this, there's a balance to be had. Yeah.
Yeah, I made my video like top 20 Black and African saints, and in the video, like probably half of the saints, when they gave away like all of their money to the poor when they were joining monastic life or when they converted into Catholicism. So it was like so many of them gave away all their wealth to the poor. So I think if you want to be a saint, you need to be generous with your money. Jake Loves Jesus says, Trevor, did you convert to Catholicism or were you raised in it?
I converted after a long struggle.
Like yeah, he was raised non-religious and then Protestant and then Catholic. What should people do with their surplus money? Give to charity or to the Catholic Church, which also gives to charity. We're like the biggest charitable organization in the world. Giovanni says, happy birthday. Thank you. Mimi says, Lizzie, is this live going to be kept for later viewing? Yes. And happy birthday. You had to pick only one food. If you had to pick only one food, what would you pick? I think for both of us, we would probably pick bread, right?
I love bread.
Yeah, I would just pick bread. I mean, maybe you could have different types of bread as well. That would be really cool. Happy birthday, Liz. Thank you, Anna. How did you gain faith? Alexander asks. Alioth says, Lizzie, why are you ignoring me? Because there's so many comments, and then we just talk to the camera, and then we can't read all the comments. But we already talked about Kim Kardashian's tweet and Kanye's bipolar disorder at the very beginning of the live stream. So how did you develop faith?
Was that a question someone had?
How did you gain faith?
Oh, okay. There's never a time in my life that I didn't believe in God. I've always, from my earliest memories, I've always believed in God. I don't know. But I did, like, the moment where it was like Christian, like more Christian direction was, I found a Bible in my house when I was in middle school and I read the Bible. So I read it from cover to cover, which when you're in middle school and you read the Bible by yourself, it creates some really wacky theology because you don't have the discipline of a community whose text that belongs to, or whose interpretation has been tested by time. So, yeah, and so it has really, that also experience really instilled the incredible importance of having a community of interpretation, which is the Catholic Church, to tell me what the church believes about the Bible.
And how to interpret the Bible.
And a lot of things I read were right and true, but a lot of things I read were like, when you read it, and especially when you have no like academic or training in English languages, especially the way public schools are, what's a metaphor? What's a, is this figurative? Is this, all these different genres? Well, when you're a middle schooler who's, a little troubled, like I was, you're going to think a lot of weird stuff. And I did, and it was weird, and I'm glad it's over. I laugh at my notes sometimes. I took furious notes.
And you still have them.
Still have them.
Ramona says, Raymond, sorry, your videos have been super helpful and thanks so much for them and happy birthday. Thank you for all the emojis. That's so sweet. May you live many more years to come. Ceci Lopez says, what do you guys think of chastity? So it's really interesting because you use the word celibacy a lot, but then I've heard people get mad at me and say you should use the word celibacy only talking about religious life.
Sure. Yeah, chastity is it's like how specific do you want to be? That's like basically like with terminology. Yeah, so like being chaste, or that's more specific. So yeah, like chastity is the virtue of moderation and self-discipline regarding sex, which is a good thing. It's a virtue.
And I'm making a video soon why I don't have sex with my boyfriend, because I haven't made a video about chastity, celibacy in a long time. So I thought I would do.
Which, by the way, people, is so weird that your life is being talked about on the internet. But it's also like, I hope that it creates like a good example for people. But it's always weird. It's like when I read comments and people know all this stuff about me, it's still like, oh, that's kind of
being a public figure.
Yeah.
Dating a public figure. Alexander says, we want to see your notes.
Not today.
Tony says, happy to meet the boyfriend, and I love his last answer.
I love Son of Saul's comment. No, celibacy is not only in religious life. Lay people can be celibate. Amen.
Fatima says, Trevor, have you read about theology of the body?
Yes, I've read about it. I've never sat down and read through the entire corpus
Same.
of John Paul II's writings. I would love to eventually. It's just I have a lot of Augustine stuff on my reading list right now. So I've been reading a lot of stuff about what Augustine thinks of sex, which is you know,
a little
stuff,
bit extreme, but great.
Sometimes, yeah.
Alioth says, Lizzie, do you think it's a sign your birthday's on the day of Mary Magdalene? I don't really think anything of it. Do you?
No.
Yeah, I don't. But cool thing about my name, so my actual like legal name is Elizabeth Marie. So whenever I'm praying the joyful mysteries, when Elizabeth says the rosary prayer about Mary, I feel like it's my first and last name together, because it's like I was named after Elizabeth in the Bible, and then obviously Marie is Mary. So yeah, and I never thought of it that like Marie is Mary until I was getting confirmed and my priest was telling me that, and I was like, oh my goodness, I was named after two amazing female saints. So Caroline Flanagan says, many do not believe in the Eucharist being the real presence. Yeah, is it like 2/3 of Catholics?
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. We were talking the other day how at Pepperdine there were a lot of Catholics and like barely anyone went to mass, and they were all just like involved in the Protestant campus ministry and went to Protestant church, probably because they didn't believe in the Eucharist. Like it's crazy. It's crazy to me now that if you're Catholic and you like believe in Catholicism and identify with it, how could you not want to receive the Eucharist every week? It's bizarre. Aliyah said, is it okay if we call you Elizabeth Marie? Absolutely not. I chose my public name for a reason. I like it more than my legal name. So for sure. Addie says, Lizzie, Trevor, what religions other than Christianity did you learn about? So like in school. So we had a world religions class in my college. It was not mandatory. I think it should have been. It was a really great class. I love the professor, and we learned about like every religion in it. What about you?
I didn't have any religion courses at all in high school. I learned about Christianity first, and then Judaism, and I flirted around in Buddhism for a while when I was in undergrad. But those are basically what I've learned about.
Oh, this is a good question. Anna McCormick says, which Catholic site, shrine in the world would each of you both like to visit the most? For me, it's Our Lady of Guadalupe. What about you?
Lourdes.
What do you think about the difficulties of Christians in the Middle East? Christians are fleeing to Europe. What do you think can be done? Yeah, so there's heavy persecution. People were actually asking me a couple live streams ago why I don't talk about it more, and no, why Americans don't care. And I was like, I do care. Like I cry when I read stuff in the news about it. So it's horrific that it's going on. I mean, the war in Iraq, I was so against that from the beginning, and it really like pushed away some of the earliest Christian communities ever. It like persecuted them so heavily. So it's heartbreaking. How about just Lizzie? Yeah, you can call me. How about just Liz? Oh, to call me just Liz. No, I'm Lizzie. And a lot of my friends in my real life call me Lizzie as well, so it's not just you guys. Mimi says, do either of you enjoy spicy food? So I live in Thailand, so I got used to eating spicy food. You can handle sriracha, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a little spicy, but I would say like sometimes if we're cooking together, I make it too spicy and he's like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Like, can't handle it. We made like a curry once and it had like a lot of like chili sauce, and yeah, it was too spicy. Trevor, what is your middle name?
Don't worry about it.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Emily Harrison says, Trevor, do any of you watch Gabby After Hours and pray the full rosary in a day? Blessings from England. So I watched Gabby After Hours video about praying the entire rosary in the day. Neither of us have ever done it. I pray the rosary so slow. It would take me like 4 hours if I prayed the whole rosary in a day. I think one is good enough. Mega says, happy birthday. Thank you. Alexander says, people are stalking Trevor.
Yeah, don't stalk me, please.
Hope says, I finally got my license and I drove to church. I told Jesus in the Eucharist the first place I drove was to you. Aw, thought that was a sweet story to share. That's really, really sweet. I love that a lot. At our school, every high school student must study the Bible. What is it like in the United States? Not at all. No, in world history, you learn about it.
And well, and and again, it depends. What state are you in?
I think he's in a different country.
Yeah, I know. But that's what I'm saying. The United States.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna give the Florida perspective and then assume that's universal, which is not the case.
No, I lived in the Midwest too, so it was different.
Because a lot of high schools in the United States do teach the Bible, but not in the states that either of us lived in. So it just depends on what state you're in. Like California, absolutely not. Washington, absolutely not. Florida, no. But like Tennessee, yes. Georgia, yes. Other states might do it too. So it just depends.
But I will say in Florida, we talked about the Bible in our English classes when studying literature, like quite a bit. In history classes, quite a bit. So I feel like we covered it. I remember in elementary school, we had to pick like a book report project, and I picked the Gospel of Matthew, and I like talked about that. So I felt like a lot of people talk about how Christianity is like oppressed in public school and you like can't talk about the Bible, but like I incorporated Christianity into so many papers throughout like middle and high school, and my teachers are fine with it. So
yeah.
People stalk Lizzie too. Alioth said, Lizzie, did you learn to cook Russian food? No. My family, if you didn't know, lived in Russia for 5 years. My parents were missionaries there, but yeah, they can cook Russian food. We've had it before, but I personally don't know how to. Jonathan says, what do you think of Trent Horn? So one of the best things I've listened to in my entire life was the debate between Timothy Gordon and Trent Horn. It was so entertaining. So entertaining. I think, did you listen to a part of it?
No.
Yeah. Anyways, he's really cool. He sent me one of his books. It was a book about when saints are misquoted for things that they said. So I think he's really, really cool. I'm in my Russian class right now. Do you believe in family planning? Yes. So natural family planning is something in Catholicism, and I'm actually going to link below my video where I talk about natural family planning if anyone is interested, just because I think it's really important for Catholics to know about. My video's monetized, yay! Okay, so I'm linking below my video where I talk about natural family planning. Go Waves. Lizzie, what do you think of Father Mark Goring? Do you know Father Mark Goring?
It sounds familiar. I don't know who it is though.
Yeah, I don't either.
Goring.
Flaviana says, why does God allow evil people to be rich?
I don't know.
Well, we have his permissive will and his active will, so he doesn't like intentionally cause evil to happen, but he permits it.
Well, I mean, the Ecclesiastes and Jesus repeats a similar notion, is that God allows the rain to fall on the good, on the just and the wicked. It's just part of the consequences of living in a free world.
Lizzie, Trevor, do you speak a foreign language fluently?
I wish.
No, because you know languages like biblical ancient languages, speak them.
I'm an American. I grew up in America, and we really suck with foreign languages. So I had a chance to learn Spanish in high school, but it wasn't required. And I could go into a whole story about that some bad stuff happened with it. But yeah, I just didn't take it seriously because I'm an American, which is foolish.
Yeah, because ideally the brain plasticity kind of ends once you get into middle school. So if they wanted us to be fluent, we would learn in elementary school, not high school. So it's kind of bizarre. Is a hot dog a sandwich? If it's a vegan hot dog, I think it can be a sandwich. What about you?
It's not a sandwich.
You don't think it's a sandwich?
No.
Okay. Have you heard anything new about Francis Chan? Do you think he will convert? Yeah, so I made my video talking about him a while ago, and have you heard any updates about it? Yeah, I think he's definitely going to convert into Catholicism or Orthodox, but probably keep it low key just because it's affecting his job and his ministry and income and family. So it's a pretty personal, dramatic thing to happen. Hi, Lion21777. How are you? Tony says thoughts on the filioque.
What do you want to hear?
Savannah says, have you guys been able to go to mass since quarantine? So in LA, it has been shut down, mass, churches, all religious activities. What about you?
I go to mass every Sunday.
Yeah, so how long has it been open here?
It's been open since like June 6th. So I go to mass like 5 times a week, 5 times on Sunday. Because I work is part of my kind of job. But yeah, I go to Saturday vigil and then all 3 masses on Sunday. So
really lucky because a lot of parts of the country are not open. Caitlin says, did you have to learn French or German, Trevor? I'm trying to learn French since a lot of theology schools look for that.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, the for academic stuff. I'm going to learn French. So I'm doing Latin right now, and I'm going to learn French. And German is on the table. I am resistant to learn German, not because I think there's a lot of great stuff written in German, but in terms of like the future of what's happening, I just would rather learn French.
I tried to learn French in college. It was horrible. It's so difficult to pronounce.
Yeah, I'm going to have a really rough time.
Piyush Kumar says, what is your favorite book? So my favorite book is A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. It's a fiction book. It takes place in Afghanistan, and yeah, it talks about like war, oppression, how women are treated. It's like a heartbreaking book, but it's a love story as well. And then my favorite theology book is Church History by Eusebius, which I talk about like every single video ever. So definitely read it. So what about you?
I don't think I have a favorite book. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good books. I don't know. They're all my children.
Yeah, like it's difficult to pick just one. GM, happy birthday, Liz. Thank you. Lizzie, Trevor, next holiday destination after lockdown. I want to go to the beach with my best friend, Monica. So I want to go to some island. Trevor doesn't really do vacations.
I'm not good at it. I keep wanting to bring my work with me when I'm, it's because fun is work to me. That's like reading, writing, that's fun. So like when someone's like, oh, let's go to the beach, it's like, that sounds like a work. I'm gonna get hot, and sweaty.
Iania says, I don't see any solid evidence of papacy in Eusebius. So I would agree with that mostly. There are definitely lists of bishops and lists of...
Sorry, I'm reacting to one of the comments. I've never read Twilight, but that's a great
Yeah,
joke.
Tony says, don't lie. Your favorite book is the Twilight series.
I'm just an ashamed closet fan.
So there's so many other works besides Eusebius to prove the papacy. I recommend a book called Upon This Rock by Stephen Ray. Upon This Rock by Stephen Ray. It goes into all the early church evidence for the papacy. But the one thing Eusebius does prove is how important the bishop lineages are, because it's constantly saying, like, in this city, bishop, 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 going all the way back to the apostles in every city. So it definitely proves like monarchical bishops and everything. Caitlin says, what is your favorite season, Trevor?
Probably the fall.
Why
fall
the
or
fall?
Winter. It's just getting colder.
Yeah, he doesn't like the heat. I'm like all summer.
I like the colors of fall too.
Happy Dog says, what do you think of the young Pope?
He's cool. I mean, I haven't seen the new seasons of the show, but the ones with I don't remember the name of the actor, but they're interesting. What if on what a possible future Pope could be like.
What do you think of Harry Potter? I was obsessed with Harry Potter growing up. The 3rd movie is my favorite. The 4th book is my favorite. What about you?
I liked Harry Potter. I didn't read all of them. I read up through like Order of the Phoenix, and I got really upset about Harry because he was just such a complainer, and I hate complaining a lot. So if you read this series, like I just couldn't finish it because he was like, why are you ignoring me? And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. But then again, like, and I like the movies and stuff. But again, like a lot of the themes and stuff that J.K. Rowling gets from Harry Potter is just Lord of the Rings. So why did just read Lord of the Rings? That's where my current opinion is.
What is your favorite book in Harry Potter? So I said mine is the 4th book. What is yours?
Maybe The Chamber of Secrets.
That's a really good one. Ask Trevor if he knows Latin. Yeah, you must be new to the stream. We talked about how he's learning Latin right now. Yeah. And even before he started learning Latin, he would just say things in Latin sometimes. So, I mean, you kind of have to learn Latin if you're studying like church documents and stuff. So, hi guys, sending lots of love from South Africa. Hi. I could not finish Order the Phoenix because I did not like Umbridge.
Yeah.
What is that? What's your favorite Gusher flavor?
Oh, Gushers. I love Gushers. I don't really know the difference in flavors because I just shove the entire pack. Like, I just eat them all. I don't eat them one at a time. I hope
not, like, recently. Is this
no, still recently. Like, I mean, like, if I'm, like, really weak when I'm at the grocery store, like, I'll buy, like, Gushers or, like, something that I really want, like, or fruit roll-ups, and I'll just indulge, which is not good, but I don't, if Liz is visiting, I don't ever do that.
Yeah, I don't know what Gushers are. I didn't really eat candy growing up. If you could eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I don't know. Spaghetti.
I'm trying to think.
So these weird questions.
Yeah, I don't know. Hi, Lizzie. Happy birthday to a boss. Thank you, Jeremiah. How strong is he? Can Trevor flex his arms? So Trevor never works out, but he's a dude, so he's much stronger than me, which is infuriating. Lately I haven't been working out my upper body as much, but when I do, I'm like so strong and can do like pull-ups and stuff, but he's still stronger than me. Emily says, Lizzie, I'm extremely introverted, which isn't bad, but it does mean I'm very nervous when it comes to sharing the faith. Any advice? Do you have any advice for sharing the faith?
When you're introverted?
Mm-hmm. You're an introvert?
Yeah, I'm an introvert. Well, it's a problem when the gospel is about proclamation, when you don't like talking to people. Yeah, like I think like just being a witness to the faith is important. So by your actions and by people see your habits, like you go to mass all the time, and how much it impacts your life, like having like witnessing to that, how God's working in you and transforming you. I think that's for an introvert the best way.
Yeah, even for extroverts, I think actions and like proving that you have an ethical, passionate life is the most important thing. Savannah says, what is Trevor's patron saint? Saint
Augustine.
Hi, Lizzie. Hi, Lee. Jeremiah said, loved your new BLM video. Very educational. Thank you. If you missed it, my new video that just went up today is called Catholicism is Under Attack. Is Black Lives Matter the Cause? How we should react as Catholics. So definitely go check it out. Edel says, happy birthday, Lizzie. Hi, Trevor. Thank you for helping me help a lapsed Catholic through your videos. Love from a sister in the United Kingdom. Oh, I'm so happy. Lizzie, how many pull-ups can you do? So currently I'm so weak. My upper body is weak. But in the past, I think I've done 3 in a row, which is like huge for a female. Lizzie, are you still getting hate from people about not dressing modestly enough? No. I've been posting bikini pictures on Instagram and people are like, don't have a problem with it because I wear modest bikinis. So were you guys both converts? Yes. He converted in 2017. I converted in 2017, 2018. Were you guys, happy birthday. Thank you, Jonathan Edwards. Happy birthday, Lizzie. You're a blessing to this world. Jonathan says, I'm new to your channel. Well, I'm glad you're here and made it to a live stream. Lee says, I came into the church last year and your videos helped me a lot in my decision. Alexander says, what is worse, idolatry or atheism?
I think at the root of atheism is idolatry. Almost every because if we all worship a deity, we all worship something. We all pay because we're made to praise. So we're made to direct our thankfulness towards something. And so if it's not God, the God who, the one true God who created us, then it's going to be ourselves. It's going to be another person. It's going to be the government, especially nowadays is a really big, in the 19th, 20th century, that was the government. I think they're both kind of the same. Like, you know,
That's so interesting.
when you make yourself your own God, like, yeah, you're going to be an atheist, but only because you're blinding. It's like hiding the truth of God from yourself. So
Emma says, what denomination was Trevor before Catholicism? So he's also from the Stone Campbell movement. I was from Churches of Christ. He was from Christian Church, which the only difference was that Christian Church had instruments in their worship and Church of Christ was a cappella. That link between idolatry and atheism is really interesting, says Anna. Val says, hi guys, happy birthday, Lizzie. How do you read the Bible? I've heard that some people read the Old Testament and New Testament and go back and forth between them. So currently I'm working through Bishop Barron's The Gospels Bible, but I would say that I think it's really important and a great idea to read the liturgy readings. So like every day there's like a gospel, an Old Testament, a psalm, and an epistle reading. So just following along on the Catholic liturgy readings I think is cool because then you get to work through the whole Bible and like interpret the New Testament with the Old Testament. Hi, Vince.
Hey, Vince.
Raul says, I love church music. Raul says, a cappella. League of Pingo 01 says, personally, I like a lot more fantasy books in other worlds or far away past your future, not those in our world and age. The Two Little Catholics, go subscribe to their channel, said, I heard from some Catholics that Bishop Barron goes against church teaching, but haven't seen that or looked into it. What do you guys think? It's just like Taylor Marshall spreading propaganda, honestly. Like, I think that Bishop Barron, people aren't looking into it enough and they hear like one person's like sentence interpretation of it and they don't see it in context, but he's not a heretic.
I think there's a genuine discussion over his Bishop Barron's discussion of hell, whether hell is full or empty. I'm a very full person, but I think that's like a genuine disagreement in like that is a theological opinion that we can have in the Catholic tradition, and so I think Bishop Barron to me is utterly orthodox, especially like if you're a John Paul II Catholic, which is some of the language that some people use, but just someone who's in continuity with the Catholic Church, in Vatican II, perfectly orthodox. And I think the disagreement over whether hell is empty or full, it really depends on someone's belief in hell, because a lot of the theological disputes that we really should be having are against those who deny hell's existence, which Bishop Barron does not do. And in like the theological world right now, that's really popular. Like David Bentley Hart has a book on that he's put out. It was a popular topic in evangelical circles for a while. And so we really need a healthy intellectual debate about why hell is important in Catholic theology. And I think like these like kind of polemical disputes kind of fly over that. Like it misses the point of why that's part of our theology, and it's a good part of our theology. So
Savannah says, my patron saint is Saint Bernadette, but I also love Saint Joan of Arc. Yes, Saint Bernadette is from Our Lady of Lourdes, and her body is incorrupt, which is so cool. I really want to see the incorrupt saints someday. I think that's so cool. M10 says, just quickly stopping by to wish you a happy birthday, Lizzie. Thank you. Ashley said, you should do a video on how to defend the faith to people who just want to point out the scandals, especially now with all the Epstein stuff going on. I'm hearing from people. The Two Little Catholics, thank you. That helps a lot. I was confused as to why people were saying that. Vince says, I'm a glass is half full, not empty kind of guy. There's no way to half empty. There's no point of negative 0.5. It doesn't make sense. Hell fears from the Doom Slayer. Okay, don't understand any of that, Vince.
Is Vince? Oh, Doom Slayer? Yeah, he's talking about the video game Doom.
Oh, okay.
That's why you don't get it.
I'm at the beginning. Elizabeth says, I'm at the beginning of my conversion at 45. Yay. My girls were very against it until they started watching you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Oh, well, welcome home. That's so exciting. It's cool when the whole family converts. I remember at his RCIA, there was like an entire family converting. They had like 3 kids and they all got baptized together. It was so cool. Yeah, I think I cried when I don't know why I cried, but you were talking about it. I was like, that's so sweet because it's like in the book of Acts where like all the time, entire families got baptized together. It's so beautiful. Vince says, thank you for translating, Trevor. Jake says, I took my friends to Mass and they hated it. Both of my friends are strong Christians, but I want them to experience the fullness of the Catholic Church. Any advice? What should my next steps be? Pray the rosary every single day and pray for their conversions. Prayer is the most powerful thing you can do. The Two Little Catholics say, would Trevor ever start a YouTube channel? That would be so cool.
I thought about it once. I did create a YouTube channel once, and then I deleted it quickly afterwards.
Did you make a video?
It was before we were dating. Yeah, I did make a video. I posted a bunch of videos. It was like a really big, like, I don't know if you've seen Lizzie's atheist cringe videos. It was kind of like that. Like, I was just like, what is this person even saying? You know, kind of stuff like that. And I just deleted it because I was like, I don't have time for this. But because the beginning part of a YouTube channel is a lot of work, and it still is throughout the rest of it. But yeah, I thought about it. I'm not sure if I'll do it or not.
Eric says, happy birthday. Thank you. Emily says, definitely Narnia is awesome too. Have you heard of a thing called World's Anvil? No. Elizabeth says, happy birthday. Vince says you should stream video games, Trevor.
Maybe both theology and video game channel. That'd be
Addison said, did Trevor grow up Catholic? So we've answered this several times. Throughout the live stream, he grew up non-religious, then was Protestant for a few years, then was Catholic. Elizabeth says, oh, she's commented again. Addison says, happy birthday. Thank you. Happy dog. What do you think of the young Pope, Pope Benedict the 9th? Didn't we already answer this question multiple times?
I wasn't aware that was his name on the show.
Happy birthday, Lizzie, from Brittany. I agree with the previous comment. Definitely do more Lizzie and Trevor videos. They love having you on. You get requested so much. Also, there was an inside joke a few weeks ago, and everyone was like, Trevor 2020, Trevor 2020.
Why are you reviving that? That's
for the upcoming election. It was just like out of nowhere. Trevor, what is qualification you are studying towards? If you don't like vacations, have you thought about studying abroad?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have 2 masters. At the end of this year, I'll have 3 master's degrees. I'm working towards a PhD. So I'm like so overly qualified. It's ridiculous. That's just the way academia is right now. It's like hyper competitive. So you have to have like a ridiculous number of edges against people. But yeah, I'm working towards theology, hopefully to be a professor. I'm also interested in working for the church long term. So anything that like helps build and support our faithful bishops and priests is what I want to do. So.
Savannah says, what were your parents' reactions to your conversions? You want to go first?
My parents didn't really react because like my dad grew up Catholic and left the church when he was, we have barely talked about it. So I assume it happened in his early 20s. He still has a lot of cultural Catholicism. He really doesn't like abortion, for instance, like just really doesn't like it. And so I think like that's an example of where there's still some Catholicism in him. He really likes the Latin Mass, actually. So that's what he says. He says, man, if they brought that back to Latin Mass, I would come back. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but that's what he tells me. Partially, I think, because he thinks it's not going to happen. And then so I'm like, well, Dad, if you want to go to Latin Mass, when you visit me, we can go down the street or something like that. And he's like, oh. Anyway, I think I lost track of the question.
You were just saying, how did your parents react? So his parents are non-religious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they just were like, oh, cool, Trevor. I'm just the religious son. So it's just like, I think it's just like curtains. Like I'm just changing the color of the curtains for them.
And my parents reacted horribly. My dad said, it's as if you got in a horrible car accident and were in the ICU about to die. That's how my dad and mom reacted. Mega Max says, Trevor, what are your degrees?
I have a bachelor's degree in biblical studies. I have a master's of religion in Old Testament. I have a master's of divinity degree, which is pretty much in everything religious. Like mostly it's like half Old Testament, half liturgical and sacramental theology. And then I'm completing an MTS, a Master of Theological Studies. All these things sound the same, but they're all different. All the coursework is way different. Which is, it'll just be Augustine and Augustinianism and philosophy. And then my PhD will be in theology.
So much.
Yeah, a lot.
Lizzie, do you see yourself doing YouTube long term? Does it sustain your lifestyle? What does she mean, sustain your lifestyle?
Like your life, like what, like where you live.
Oh, okay.
You know.
I don't see myself ever quitting YouTube unless it becomes like super irrelevant platform. Like if it becomes like where they got rid of Vine, if they like got rid of YouTube or something. But I always see myself doing YouTube. I might like move on to a different career, but I would still like regularly post to my YouTube channel. I would never stop YouTube. Vince is bringing back the demonic inside jokes. So someone was asking if like bipolar is demonic. This happens a lot. And then people just start saying like TV is demonic, demons are demonic, grass is demonic, bread is demonic, just like everything. So he's like, atheism is demonic,
I
evil
love the
is
Darth
demonic.
Vader quote. Impressive, very impressive.
Son of Saul says, Trevor, what do you think about vocations as a call from God?
I told like Lizzie, I don't know what her current belief on this is. I super believe in vocations. So I believe that you have to have a very specific calling to be a priest or to be a religious person or to vocation to marriage even. I think we've lost a lot of that because of our kind of post-Victorian obsession with romance. Yeah, I think like in terms of my own vocation, like I am currently, you know, with Lizzie, we're dating, and so we're seeing if we're being called to marriage. To me, that's what this vocation is. I've also very much thought about being a priest or other kind of religious vocation. I have too many student loans to ever be in religious life, yeah, I just have not felt that call. And again, like I have a master's of divinity. So there's a point in my life where I was preaching in a church, not in a Catholic church. This was when I was Protestant. But I'm just not a good pastor. Like I show favoritism. There's a bunch of like my own problems that, you know, and, you know, there's a point when I was preaching and I was quoting Catholic sources, you know, and they really liked it. I was like, man, I'm just preaching, you know, there was when I was like in the middle of converting. But yeah, I just don't know if that's for me. Like I love theology. I just don't know if that's what God has called me to do. And I think that's important. I think it's very important.
Emily says, chickens are demonic. Veganism is demonic. Wait, can
Devil
I say
May
that?
Cry is demonic. It is, Vince, it is.
Do you know the Shannara book series? No. I like a lot of the original trilogy and the heirs of Shannara. Have you heard of that?
No.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. I mean, the Pope who had 3 pontificates, not the show, his real life, what he did. I'm sorry if it was confusing. He's one of the reasons why I'm struggling with converting. Weird. So they're saying Pope Benedict the Ninth is, I'm pretty sure that's what that comment is in reference to.
3 pontificate. Do you mean, are you talking about like the Avignon papacy when there's 3 popes? Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. It just seems it's kind of vague. His real life, what he did. Yeah, I mean I'm sorry. I have not studied this particular pope, so if I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, I apologize. But yeah, like in terms of continuity with popes, it's not really like it doesn't work the same way that apostolic succession does. There's an office of the Pope, like the Supreme Pontiff in Rome, who's the Bishop of Rome. And so like if Pope Benedict XVI didn't need to know personally Pope Francis and then confer that personally to Francis, that's not how it works. There's a conclave and the keys are, which the conclave, the word literally means with keys. So they're the people who have the keys and give the keys to the next, and like help transition between the popes. But I think like there's a lot of scandal in the history of the papacy, and like when you look at especially like Renaissance and certain popes back then, we're really lucky in the modern era to have so many faithful popes. And even though sometimes some popes can say some weird stuff or things that we think are weird, it's nothing compared to like some of the other popes who were undigging their predecessor's body and putting the dead body on trial. Like it's not even comparable. But again, like that just testifies to the strength of papal infallibility, that God preserves the church's teaching even when we have really sometimes really unfaithful leaders. So that's my answer to that.
Depression is demonic. The sky is demonic. Pianos are demonic. The office is satanic. Okay.
Yes. Technically speaking, Caitlin, you could get accepted into a program. I'm not sure if it'd be worth it because all their money is probably allocated by now. So if you're looking to get a scholarship or some kind of fellowship, some kind of funding for your degree, it might be too late for that. But a lot of schools accept people this far out, or this like, I mean, because school starts next month. But I would, if I were you, I would just do it next year, because you only have to wait until like December or January for applications again.
McDonald's is demonic. Fatima says, is Catholicism growing in the US? No. I think for every convert into Catholicism, I could be wrong on this, but I believe 5 people leave the church who grew up Catholic. Is that the stat?
It's a little more.
I heard it from your RCIA. It might be even worse than that. So there's so many converts. And like from my perspective, like Catholicism is growing so much because I get messages every day of people converting, like so many converts. But then also there's people who grew up Catholic who stopped going to mass regularly. So it's not growing. It's really bad.
Well, I mean, it is growing. There's not less and less Catholics in the world in certain areas.
Yeah. She said in the U.S.
Oh, in the U.S. Okay.
Yeah. But like around the world, Catholicism is growing. Like in Africa and China and South America, It's flourishing. So it's just in Europe and the U.S. where it's really bad. Amazon is satanic. Happy birthday, Lizzie, all the way from England. Caitlin says, I'm not going to apply right away. I'm going to work for at least a year in between, but thank you, hopefully for the 2021-22 school year. Do you think the entertainment industry is anti-Catholic? I mean, we already said I don't listen to movies. I mean, I don't watch movies or TV, so I'm not like a good person to...
Yes, in a way, because our country is Protestant. Like that's just the foundation of this country is super Protestant. So a lot of the way that we even think about some things is default Protestant unless you deliberately work on it, which is a thing why our CIAs need to be better about that, to root out stuff like that. But yeah, like one of the challenges I think that both of us have encountered as converts is a lot of our like millennial or Gen Z friends have been very accepting and tolerant of us when we converted, unlike many other people who were older who still retain some of those deep Protestant ties. But the problem is like there's also a challenge of, well, they're accepting of Catholics until they find out that you believe Catholic things. Mm. And so at least with the entertainment industry, they're totally okay with you if you're Catholic. There's no problem being Catholic in the entertainment industry. But if you believe Catholic things, they'll have a problem with you.
Because there's so many people who are like cafeteria Catholics or like dissent from church teaching. So then when they find out you like agree on sexual ethics or are pro-life, then it's seen as so
then
oppressive.
You get problems. Yeah, then you run into problems.
Yeah. Happy birthday from New Jersey. Thank you, Vince. Lizzie, would you ever come to Vancouver, Canada? I would love to meet you one day. Yes, if I had a speaking event there, I would love to come back to Canada. I can't remember the last time you live streamed during the day. I know, it's always at night. Have you read Scott Hahn's new book, Hope to Die? Really comforting for me.
I've not.
No. Also, many Catholics, don't believe everything the church teaches. So I guess not too many true Catholics out there. Two little Catholics, what are you going to do to celebrate your birthday quarantine style? So I'm having a Zoom party with my college friends. So I think there's going to be like 9 or 10 of us. So we're just going to Zoom for a couple hours and catch up on life.
Please no.
So,
can it just be like an hour or two, not like a couple hours?
Happy birthday from Pennsylvania. Thank you, Christina. UCME Roland, that was me. I've been watching Father Mark Goring recently. I recommend watching him as well. Okay, I'll screenshot this and try to remember to watch it. Lizzie, maybe a video idea. I forgot to say in your last live, maybe do a video about the different iconoclasms in Europe, like the Dutch iconoclasm. Okay, I will add this to my YouTube list of videos to do. Where is... Oh, here we go. Happy birthday from Wisconsin. Thank you for the super chat. Happy birthday from Brazil. Do you think the hormone dopamine from video game use and social media can cause addiction in the use of these things? Yes, absolutely. Instagram causes dopamine release when you get someone to like your photo. So he is so much worse than me with being on social media. I don't like social media that much, but yeah, it's definitely some dopamine going on.
I'm not as hysterical about it. So I think like it definitely can cause addiction, but I don't think it necessarily does. But there's a level of fear mongering involved that happens sometimes with like video games and other like things like that. It's just like we just have to teach people moderation, which our country and our culture doesn't do. We don't really know how to do that. I think like if we learn more about moderation and that as a virtue, then we wouldn't have as much of a problem. But
okay, so this is pretty funny. Son of Saul, do you want to read it?
Trevor, there is hope. Zoom allows only 45-minute calls. Oh, thank you, dude. No. You're like my best friend now.
No, guys, I have the paid version.
Oh, you do?
For my Bible studies. Yeah.
Okay. Doomslayer.
Lizzie, what is your opinion on raw veganism? I think it's extremist. It's so expensive. It takes so long to eat and prepare. It's insane. I don't understand why people go fully raw vegan. Does Trevor go to a Byzantine rite?
Not currently. I love the Byzantine rite though.
Yeah, me too.
I love all the rites of the church.
For sure. Savannah says, of course, have you guys ever experienced times in your life where you notice God working in your life every time? Every single day, God is working in everyone's life. I do not think you've ever been to World Youth Day. Have you? No. Father Mark Goring is awesome. Father Mike Schmitz and Father Don Calloway, amazing too. Happy birthday from Indonesia. Much love. Thank you. I have to go back to work. Talk to you guys later. My break is over now. Bye. Thank you for joining in the birthday live stream. Have fun at work. I guess you probably want to have fun at work. Does Trevor play an instrument?
No.
I play guitar and I played viola growing up. So actually, like 7 years after I like stopped playing viola regularly, I picked up my viola like during college, like way past when I stopped, and I could like perfectly play my performance pieces, like solo pieces, because of muscle memory. So pretty cool. But now I play guitar when I want to do some music thing. Happy birthday, Lizzie. May God bless you and continue to work through you and your channel. Thank you. Hey guys, do you have a favorite Catholic song? Reckless Love! I'm just kidding. He hates Reckless Love so much. It's too evangelical. Do you have a favorite Catholic song?
No.
Yeah, there are certain songs during Mass that I really enjoy, but I don't know the names of them. There's one song that you used to sing at the your Nashville Cathedral about the Eucharist, like those who
like
drink
Ubi
this
Caritas?
No.
No.
Like those who drink this cup will live forever. Those who eat this bread.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's Eucharistic.
Da, da, taste and see. I think that's a different song. Lucas, thank you. You guys have pets?
I don't have any pets. I don't think. Yeah, she doesn't have any pets right now. When we get married, I think she wants to get cats, and
one cat.
Oh, I know one cat is not any different than 2 cats. I don't know. It's just I'm not an animal, really a pet person. Like, so I'd rather like not. But yeah, that's a debate we'll have for sure.
Trevor, do you like Gregorian chants?
I love Gregorian chants.
A lot of people who live in Africa watch you. You are known in Africa. I hope I get a visit one day. Happy birthday. Do you think that Catholics should retreat from the culture wars public discourse and instead focus on building strong Catholic communities? What do you think?
I think there's an important I think there's an important debate about that. I think that there's a problem with the idea of solely doing like, say, like a Benedict option of say like retreating, because like that's the problem. Like the main critique of the Benedict option is that retreat never really happened, because even like Benedictine monks, they were still part of the community, that they still live next to towns, and they had like a symbiotic relationship with the towns they live next to. So so I highlight that merely to state that like you're never going to have one or the other. It must include both of those things. I think we both have to be part of the culture wars, realizing that we're a minority, and often a growing minority, but also we have to still like defend our rights, defend our way of life, because the way that secularism works is that no matter how vibrant and beautiful kind of a Benedict option community you build, eventually they will come for you. Like that's just how it is. So you have to both build these communities, because we have to, one, get our population up. Part of the problem of Catholic life is that we have absorbed so many Protestant notions about life and world and living in the world, that we really need to work on the integrity of our Catholicity and sharing that faith and making sure we have communities that help support each other. That's the main thing. I think that's the main thing we need to do. But we also have to defend ourselves, and also there's truth. We believe in truth, so we also have to advocate for things. And a full retreat, I think, is out of the cards. Like, it's just no real. Yeah. What do you think?
I thought that was a really, really good answer. I didn't really think a lot about the question. Hi, David. Hello, guys. God richly bless you both. Have you ever listened to Agni Parthni? No. Everything that could be already is, and everything that could happen already has, and it is for this reason. So the story goes that God created man, no limitation, no story, no being. Interesting. Do you think Catholics should have our own state with our own law? I think it's good to be within the world, because that's the only way to do evangelism if you know people who are not Catholic. So I think becoming like our own state, like when founding the US, we had our own Catholic colony, but I think it's good that we're like throughout the world now. Ashley says, I have to get back to work as well. Hope you enjoy your birthday. Thank you for being here and hanging out with me. Have you ever been to a mass when priests are ordained? Yes, multiple times. I find them really amazing. Yeah, they're really, really beautiful. I think my favorite part, I've been to one in LA and one in Nashville, and in his cathedral in Nashville, like the way they vowed to the bishop to like submit and obey the bishop in everything.
Yeah, I mean, their promises, yeah. But
yeah, they're pretty cool. What do you think of the Imitation of Christ?
That's a great spiritual Thomas A. Kempis, you know. The Imitation of Christ.
Happy birthday. How can you guys cope with temptation to break chastity? It's really easy.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I don't know when she says it. Personally, for me, when I say, I'm not saying that to like demean anyone else's struggle, so don't take it that way. I just think that like I separate myself from like the sex obsessed nature of our culture. And so I like, in that part of chastity isn't just saying like forcing yourself to say no. It's also creating really clear boundaries. And so like we have so many boundaries that it's like
impossible.
It's like unless I want to sin, like I have just it's just let's sin. And then we ignore all like the reason and the practices that we've built together as a couple. There's no like walking over the edge. Oh, how close can we get? Blah, blah, blah. No, just don't do that. Just don't. If I was and this is one of the reasons why I'm not a psychiatrist or a therapist. For me, it's just easy to say, just don't do it. Just stop it. Just stop it. Whereas like if you tell most people that, they're like, I just can't stop it. What are you talking about? But anyway.
So I'm going to link in the live chat a playlist I've made of sexual ethics videos. And in the playlist, where is it? Anyways, I've made many videos on like how far is too far. All my Christian videos. I don't know if I can find this Liz sexual ethics playlist. Let's see if it comes up. Yeah, no. Anyways, DM me on Instagram or Twitter. I've made like many videos.
Whoever is watching this in high school.
I've made many videos on like saving sex for marriage, how far is too far, all of that. So if you're interested, I just linked one, Christian sexual temptation, where I talk about the issue and like in depth about it. But yeah, I think if you have someone who like perfectly agrees with you on the meaning of sex and why we're against contraception and marital sex and all of that, if you guys are like 100% both on it, it shouldn't be a problem at all. And like if it is a problem for you where you're like getting too close and like running over boundaries, don't hang out alone in a bedroom. Don't hang out alone on a couch. Don't hang out alone in your apartment. Like if it's getting to that point, then like don't kiss each other. No, I'm serious, because like there's this Christian YouTube channel called Girl Defined, and they're like really fundamentalist, and they don't kiss before marriage. They don't hang out in a house alone before marriage. They don't hang out in a car alone before marriage. And I thought it was extreme. But then when like friend after friend like starts having sex before marriage, I was like, you know what? Like Girl Defined, they actually like save sex for marriage, and they're living in chastity, and it's crazy. But they're obeying
That's
God.
True. So, but then part of it too is like we have this idea that because we've subliminally accepted so many of the culture's view of sex, like I said, like this post-Victorian romance idea, that we believe like fundamentally that like we're less of people if we don't have sex, that like somehow I lack fulfillment as a human being if I don't have sex. And to the degree that we believe that, even subliminally, it makes things like virtues like chastity into like clubs to beat people with. Like it makes what is a virtue into something that is like awful and repressive. So what I think the fullness of the Catholic Church is teaching isn't like this repressive view. It's like I'm living my best life, like, and not in the Joel Osteen way, but in like an actual like the Beauta Vita, like the happy life. I'm living towards that.
And you're more free by being living out chastity.
I'm free.
More free.
Free to pursue God. Treo Reeves has
Thank you for the donation.
Thank you for the donation. I have not read that, and I think that you recommended that last time, if I remember correctly. And I will definitely, Lizzie's screenshotting that, so I will definitely look into that more, I promise.
Have you guys ever heard this question before? What's your perspective and thoughts? If God is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, what does such a being lack?
The being, like, if again, like God lacks nothing. Like, okay, this is and like you have to have like for that statement to make sense. Like some people are like, oh, God's free. We say God's perfectly free, but if you don't understand how like ontology or what being means and like metaphysics, then you'd be like, well, God can't sin, so he's not free. And it's like, no, actually, like sinning is actually a lack of freedom. It's you're taking your freedom away. It's like a form of bondage, because we're not like it, yeah. So I could get into that more, but so yeah, God lacks nothing. God is impassible.
What do you think of Imitation of Christ?
I'm not, again, like this sounds kind of weird. I'm not like a super spiritual person. Like, and that sounds bad. Like when my
the way you define.
Yeah, I know it's the way I define it. But so when I'm at family gatherings, stuff like, you know, people will be like, "Oh, I'm spiritual, but not religious," and then so I'll say I'm religious but not spiritual, and just to mess with them, you know. But what I mean by that is like Mass is really important for me. Gathering in prayer with other people, I really need a community to help me pray. Like that's just what I need as someone who wants to honor God through rites. That's how I have to do it. If I pray the rosary, which I'm not always praying it, but when I do, I pray much faster than Liz does. Liz likes to meditate over stuff. Like I'm just trying. It's like almost something I'm trying to get done. So those are things I have to work on in my own spiritual life. But what Thomas, to get more to the question, Thomas Aquinas, I really like his emphasis on love, and I think those good things. But my spiritual life really comes alive when I'm in more intellectual pursuits, like when I'm writing and reading like different, like Augustine. Like to me, I'm meditating on what Augustine is saying, and also like I work at a church, and when I'm setting up for a Mass, like I'm praying over the Mass that's going to happen. So sometimes Imitation of Christ gets criticized because it's sometimes is seen as being too emotive or too like, and for me, that's one reason where I meet a limitation with it, but I don't think that's bad. I think everyone connects to God in different ways. So
someone said, I'm late here. Is Trevor also a Catholic convert?
Yes.
Yes. If you are not on YouTube, what would you do? I think if I wasn't doing YouTube, I would have gone to law school or become a therapist or maybe a teacher as well. I don't know. Or a missionary, like in a different country. Both Saint Teresa of Lisieux's parents are now Saints Louis Martin and Marie. Yes, I pray to them for sure. What are your views on people who experience same-sex attraction plus you two are so cute? So they're absolutely welcome into the church. If you want a really long answer and a lot of resources to understand the issue more, please DM me on Twitter and Instagram. I have a Google Doc I've created with a lot of information that talks about that more, and some Instagram accounts that are also talking about that issue really in depth.
God can't fall, therefore he's omnipotent. He isn't omnipotent. Then this is an interesting question. This is interesting, and this is actually a good thought experiment, because if God could fall, then he wouldn't be omnipotent. That's because if God doesn't have a body, God's a spirit, God's simple. He's not complex like us. So if God could fall, you're not talking about the God that Christians worship, because then he has a body, he can fall. That, you know, this is Augustine. Augustine, when he realized that God doesn't have like a physical body, that was when he's like, wow, I can believe this. So that's actually a still problem today, is people believe that God's just like some dude on the clouds. And a lot of our art kind of sometimes suggests something like that. But it's God's a spirit. Like, so, yeah, so anyway, so yeah, like just go back to your question. If God could fall, he wouldn't be omnipotent.
Interesting. I'm glad you're here to answer these questions, because I would not have had a response to that. How do you grapple with doubt? So he doesn't doubt God's existence ever. When I do, I think it's really important to have a lot of research backing up like arguments for the existence of God, arguments for the resurrection, rebuttals to the problem of evil, like looking at it from a philosophical perspective is really helpful to just like have that as evidence. We were saying earlier how when converting atheists, just having arguments for Christianity isn't helpful, but I think it's helpful for Christians when they do doubt to stay Christian. Happy birthday, Rakita says, thank you. Savannah says, I've heard that there are bishops who can be traced back to which apostle line they came from. Every bishop can be traced back to one of the apostles. Otherwise, it's not proper apostolic succession. Thank you, Trevor, for explaining the point on being spiritual. Oh, and someone else asked, I lost the comment, but it said, what does it even mean to be spiritual but not religious? So people who say that are like, I pray on my own, I read the Bible on my own, I experience God on my own, but then don't go to church and they're not part of a religion. And what I always explain to these people is that Jesus started a church. In the book of Acts, Acts chapter 2, the apostles started a physical church. They were not just praying in the desert by themselves. They had a physical church with bishops and priests leading the church. So it's just completely anachronistic, zero understanding of history to think that Jesus just like created like love and prayer and like do whatever you want by yourself. Like it's just not historical at all. It's horrible. I get in so many conversations about this, like in Ubers. I was coming back to America from Ireland, and literally, I don't know if I told you this, but the not TSA, customs agent started fighting me on this because he was like, where are you coming from? And I was like, oh, I was doing Catholic missions work. And he was like, Catholicism, da, 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 da. Like, I'm spiritual but not religious. Why do you have religion? Like, he started fighting me about it coming back to America.
Kind of inappropriate. I don't think it's horrible. So I'll have a little softer, more squishy answer than Liz does. But there's like a genuinely good impulse in the spiritual but not religious movement, I think. And part of that is because I do think it at least encapsulates the idea of desiring something, like a connection with something super sensible, that is good, because our like the culture isn't becoming atheist. Like in a way it is, like they just don't believe in the Christian God, but there's still this like spiritual impulse in us. And I think that does testify to this eternity that's in our hearts. And I think, but again, like my main problem with spiritual not religious is that to me, you need to be grounded in a great tradition. It's like, so like a Buddhist, like someone who's actually Buddhist, not like fake. There's a lot of fake Buddhists, but like a real Buddhist who's like actually like goes to the temple, and like Jewish people, others like Muslims. You need to be grounded in a great spiritual tradition, because otherwise you're just so malleable to like whatever that time is telling you to believe. So like the spiritual not religious movement, it's just so consumeristic to me, like, or like it at least is so susceptible, because it's creating like a spiritual path that does not keep modernity at bay, like, or keep what John Paul II referred to as the culture of death at bay. It is like totally malleable to it, and so that's my main problem with it.
Some spiritual but not religious people are not Christian, though. Like, they don't believe in Jesus or the Bible. Yeah. One thing I will say, though, is the Protestant Reformation, we should have like foreseen it happening, that people would stop going to churches. Because when you break away from like the church, it just makes sense. Like, you're going by the Bible alone and not like the church, which interprets the Bible for us and like created the Bible and everything. So don't you agree with that? Like, it makes sense that Protestantism led to the spiritual but not religious.
Well, because a lot of the attacks that have been brought against Catholicism by Protestantism for so long, the past 5 centuries, these are all now attacks that are being brought against Christianity generally. Mm-hmm. So attacks against the idea that there's one church, attacks about like, say like spirit, like certain kinds of spirituality, the mass, all these things, like sola scriptura, the Bible, and it's all like, well, it kind of transfuses, it like secularizes. So like the impulse of sola scriptura, it really places makes you a pope, like you're just your own, it's in the Bible is often said to be a paper pope, but you're really pope. And so it's just one step further than to say, well, I don't need this book. I am the sole arbiter of my own spiritual life. And so, but if you had never given up the tradition in Catholicism, you would never have gotten to that like gradual shift. Mm-hmm. So that's another problem.
Happy Matter Day. Happy birthday, Lizzie. Some people say that Catholicism came from the Tower of Babel and that the founder was Nimrod for some reason, maybe because it sounds Catholic. Why do they say that, and what's the argument for it? What?
No, it's just, I mean, it's just a random kind of like interpretation of the Tower of Babel story. I mean, they do the same thing with the Whore of Babylon and Revelation and a bunch of other things in the Bible. It's just a desperate attempt to find something that like argues against, because when you do that, you're still like in the unity amongst Protestants in Europe for a long time was simply that they weren't Catholic. Like, even if they were heretics, they were like, well, I'm not Catholic. And it's like, oh, you're one of the boys. Okay, cool. So just, there's no basis in it. Especially because like the Tower of Babel it prefigures the coming of the church. So the idea that the people speak in many languages in the Tower of Babel instead of speaking one, it is fulfilled in the coming of the church because the church accepts all nations. So it reunifies humanity. So, I mean, if you're displacing that interpretation, I think that's bad. By coming up with some like anti-Catholic weird it's just, dude, find someone before the 18th century who believed that, please. Please find it.
What do you guys think about CBN?
It's a Christian broadcasting network.
Oh, I met someone in an Uber once who works for Christian Broadcast Network. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Is it in LA? Because my Uber was talking.
Pat Robertson is totally off the rails. He's been off the rails for like 2 decades.
This is a really good question. Myrna says, hi, Lizzie, do you believe the Bible is infallible and perfect? So it depends on how you define infallible and perfect. So there's different biblical genres. So everything in it isn't like scientific, literal, infallible. But if you interpret it within the right genres, then I think that, like, we would say it's infallible and perfect, but it just depends on how you're defining that and interpreting the genres.
Well, because if you interpret it wrong, then that wrong interpretation is not infallible. Like, we don't.
It's fallible.
I mean, but at the same time, it's like you can't just take the Bible on its own because you also have to read it with the tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you're wondering about this question, I would suggest reading Augustine's literal commentary on Genesis. It's really long, but even reading the introduction to it, like, it's absurdly long. Just reading like an introduction to it will help because it parses, well, what does literal mean? What does figurative mean? What does allegory mean, or like allegorical interpretation? And then also, like, what is the purpose of the Bible? Like, and so for Augustine, like, he thought it was silly to believe that the world was created in 6 literal days, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't believe that these are real people. So, like, we have to, like, really, like, sit down, and because a lot of and this is a weird thing about modernism, is that a lot of the way that we talk about those issues is we're so immersed in modernism that even when we think that we're being, like, conservative or faithful to the tradition, we're actually, like, playing on modernism's terms, which is not good. So yeah, like, read Augustine, and Aquinas kind of clarified a lot of what he said about that in the Summa. So I would check that out too.
Alexander says, so this is in response to someone asked, they said, some bishops can trace themselves back all the way to the apostles. And I said, all of them can if it's valid apostolic succession. So then Alexander is asking, but how come there are millions of bishops, but only 12 apostles? So individual apostles ordained more than one bishop, and then bishops can ordain a bishop for another city. So obviously, like, the city of Philadelphia didn't exist. I mean, it did exist, but Catholics did not exist in the city of Philadelphia in the 1st century. And so when you're ordaining new bishops and new priests, you can ordain multiples and then they can go to different cities. But you can still, like, I don't know if, like, every single bishop knows how they can trace back perfectly, but it does. Or it's not apostolic succession.
Taco Nacho, you are right. Like, millions?
Vicky says, I came back. You two speak so similar that happens often in couples.
Do Catholics believe in Calvin's predestination? Unless there's, like, a specific heresy that happens, I believe it's called Jansenism, that are really Calvinists. Basically, the Catholic teaching, and this is attesting to Aquinas as well, but we believe in a form of predestination, but it's not like the kind of simplist. I mean, I really like Calvinism. So, like, if I wasn't Catholic, I would probably be, I know. It's just really logical, and I really appreciate that, and it's cold honesty. Yeah, it's hyper Augustinian, but so it's so Augustinian that it, like, misrepresents a lot of what Augustine said about predestination and what the church teaches about predestination. Because we believe in, like, a kind of a form of compatibilism where there's free will and also like God's providence. And so in Calvinism, those are not reconcilable, because this is my main critique of Calvinism is that often how people frame God and the providential God of Calvinism is he's just a giant human being, and he's just a huge, powerful person, and so he has to have all the power, all the glory. And if a human has any kind of like say in their salvation or any kind of part in it, then that somehow takes away glory from God, and so it can't happen. Whereas like in Catholicism, God has all the glory, but humans also have glory. So it's like there's because we believe that God works through people, and part of being a good Christian and being virtuous is directing your life in continuity with God, like in towards the beatific vision. And so we don't put God and humans in competition with each other, but Calvinistic predestination does.
Danny says, don't you think that confession is irrational because only God has an infallible criterion, and as man, a priest could fail to discern and retain someone's sin unfairly or vice versa? So priests don't like retain sins in confession. What do they mean by that?
They can say that they can retain, and they can say like, I'm not going to forgive your sins.
Really?
Yeah, they just don't do it.
That's bizarre.
Right.
It's never happened to me.
Okay. Yeah,
I've never heard of it happening.
Because you're not a giant jerk. That's why. Okay. So anyway, it's not irrational. Because again, like as I said, like when the priest is in the confessional, he's acting in the person of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And so like even if the priest speaks in a human ways, God still is working through that person. And which again is one of the problems. Like if there's problems, like there's some kind of sin on the part of the priest or whatever, that can cause problems. And like again, like the priest can invalidate it by not saying the prayer the right way. But again, like it's not irrational. It's actually really good, and that's one of the reasons why it can be abused so much, is because it's so good. And the person doesn't need an infallible criterion because God has an infallible criterion. So that's the onus on God. It's God who works. It's not the human who works.
Yeah, I think that in the person of Christ really like refutes that comment, because it's Jesus literally being there. As Catholics, Fatima says, as Catholics, where's the boundary of interpreting the Bible? Church magisterium. Trevor, would you give Lizzie up to be a priest?
I would if I I love how instant that is. It's like I love Lizzie very much, and there's some people who leave their spouses or people they're engaged with to be a priest, and sometimes
it happened to Jackie Angel 2 times.
Yeah, and there's some ways to do it that is like kind of like horrible. And if I felt like God was calling, if I felt like I'm gonna do what I feel like what God is calling me to do, and I wouldn't do it without consulting her, because we're discerning marriage together. And so it's kind of a problem for that if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna bail the ship right now or something. So she'd be involved in that. Yeah, I mean, if I don't think I have that vocation. So, but
it also happened, Pope John Paul II. If you guys have watched the Pope John Paul II video on YouTube, it's 3 hours, but it's free on YouTube. The same thing happened where he was dating this girl and then he broke up with her to become a priest, but then he ended up becoming like staying friends with her and the man that she ended up marrying. So I thought it was really sweet and really sad and like really beautiful. So I highly recommend the Pope John Paul II movie. Just Google like Pope John Paul II movie and it'll come up on YouTube. Will you do a live stream on bipolar topics? I have a question regarding my friend who got diagnosed a few years ago. I make so many live streams talking about bipolar and like every single one, so just send the question. Do you want to end the live stream soon?
Maybe.
Okay, because we've been here for almost 2 hours. Greetings from the Philippines. How often should one go to the sacrament of confession? I would say at least once a month. What would you say?
Yeah, at least once a month.
There's a new priest at our church who broke up with his girlfriend to become a priest, and then she became a sister. Interesting.
That's sweet.
Have you guys
The Ravi Zacharias one.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard about. I mean, I've met Ravi Zacharias.
Oh, me too. He came to Pepperdine.
He came to Pepperdine, so he was helpful to me earlier in my evangelical days. But yeah, I mean, he kind of stopped being a major focus for me because I was seeking Catholicism. But he was really in terms of like all like the apologists and that kind of group of people, he was probably the most charitable towards Catholicism out of all of them. So that was a good mark on him.
Hey, Trevor, are you thinking about becoming a permanent deacon?
Yeah, I think I would consider becoming a deacon at some point. I'll definitely and that's years out, but I would definitely consider it once I'm married and have kids. I might consider that, but it would be in a prayerful way, I think. So.
David said, "I wouldn't give up Lizzie either." The church does allow married priests in the Eastern Rite. Absolutely. One of my friends was doing that, entering through the Eastern Rite.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Peaceful. Happy birthday, Lizzie. God bless you. Enjoy your day and play Las Mañanitas for me as a gift to you. Okay, I screenshotted it. I'll look it up later. When my priest died, his prom date came to the funeral, and they had stayed in touch for his 44 years of Melkite Catholic priesthood. That's really, really sweet. Yeah, you can totally stay friends with people. That's so sweet. When you are in the confessional, does Jesus forgive through the priest, or did Jesus entrust forgiveness to the apostles who passed it down to the priests who distribute it to penitents?
Both.
Okay. Peaceful protesters burn down my church. I wouldn't define protesters as peaceful if they're burning churches, especially if people are inside. So I don't know why you consider them peaceful. That's very charitable.
I mean, well, no, it's not. He's being sarcastic.
Okay.
But I think because there's a problem with some media who like refuse to say rioters.
Oh. Okay.
And so like in Oregon, for instance, this is happening where like there's some weird stuff happening with like picking people up, I think, and like arresting people. And so the news will keep saying, "Oh, they're arresting protesters," but it's like, no, they're arresting rioters, like people who are breaking buildings and stuff. So there's some weird like kind of like political stuff. I hate it.
Interesting. Well, obviously, like there's a lot of peaceful protesters. Then there are rioters. Then there's people committing arson. There's like a lot of. They're all happening at the same time. Happy birthday, blessings. Thank you, Ingrid. Non-murderers murdered me. Portland is being destroyed by peaceful protesters. Yeah. Yes, Trevor gets it. Media bias is real. CNN says peaceful while everything was burning. Wow. What would be your best argument in order to support the idea that tradition is holy and interpret the Orthodox way to interpret the Bible? Regards from an evangelical brother, love your work. I would just say that the Bible was, we didn't just like get the Bible, we wrote the Bible, and then you need church tradition to even say which books of the Bible are legit and not fake books of the Bible. So sola scriptura, I would just like destroy sola scriptura, and then from there, like naturally, it gets to the magisterium. What would you say?
Well, I mean, this issue, because I was a BA, I was like a biblical studies person from my undergrad, 4 years of that, and my first and second master's degree. I was like super Bible all the time. And the thing that really made me start exploring Catholicism was the hermeneutical issue. Was who gets to decide what the interpretation is? Because if we're all, it's like what we're experiencing in Christianity right now is that there's a cacophony of different voices, none of that are all like in competition with each other. And what you need is like a consistent body that can be the church, and that whose job is to arbitrate these disputes. And so then you get to the person, the Pope, who's kind of like the buck stops with the Pope, basically. So in terms of interpretation, I was looking for, well, who's doing interpreting? And there's debates amongst the Anglicans that the church fathers are the people who, when we want to interpret the Bible correctly, we need to be faithful to the church fathers. Bishop Barron talks about this actually, but then you have this idea too that, well, there's a living voice of the law. So again, because this is all, a lot of it is kind of like juridical, like there's like a lot of like who gets to decide when to apply this, when to apply that, and who's in what church body has been there across time. It's like, well, that's the Catholic Church. And so it's an authoritative body that gives freedom because it creates boundaries around a perimeter of theological opinion and disagreement and puts people in communion with each other. But then it also gives you, it's like, well, when you have a dispute, like when there's a heresy, well, who decides a heresy? Well, in like the Protestant churches, it's really just individual to individual. And it's people using the Bible often for whatever end they have. Whereas like when you have tradition as like married to the Bible, they're mutually enriching. And that's beautiful. And that creates order. And that order creates unity and more unity. And that's what Jesus asked us to do, is to love one another. And so if we're into constant schism, constantly separating from each other, that's not a sign of God's blessing. So yeah, it was like the interpretation issue.
May God grant you many years, each of us in a different way. Trevor, do you have a YouTube channel or a social media? What is your Twitter at? Trev BW.
Yeah, it's really simple.
Trev BW.
That's my Twitter. I don't have a YouTube channel.
Do you have a video on the Great Schism? I do not. Whenever someone says juridical, I always hear it as
juridical.
I think Trevor and Lizzie are chosen by God on a mission for the faith. That's really, really sweet. So we've been at 2 hours. So
oh, someone followed me.
Someone just followed Twitter.
That's so
Trevor
sweet.
on Twitter. Yeah, go follow Trevor on Twitter. Trev BW. Trevor, wake up. She's not who she appears to be, Lizzie. Why aren't you?
That's so mean.
That's so mean. Hide user on this channel. Okay.
Lizzie is the most genuine person I've ever met. Some people, you know, she has very few haters, but the few ones that do, the happiness and the joy, that's real. It's crazy. I'm like the most downcast, like negative person ever. She's always like, what's good happening in the world? That's Liz.
Trevor, reading the Bible without a guide is like listening Anderson talking about the Orthodox and Catholic one-verse theology, scary theology, as he slanders the apostolic Coptics.
Yep. And like it, in a way, like without a guide or without the tradition, you're almost no better than I was when I was in middle school by myself. Because, and it's the thing, like in our rhetoric, sometimes we often argue against tradition or like say, oh, you don't need it, you can do it on your own. But like in practice, that's not how we actually practice the faith. We always are looking for guides. We're always looking for mentors. You know, and that's why I discovered in Protestantism, it was just like a unacknowledged belief that tradition is important. Like it's suppressed because of polemics. And that's, you don't need the polemics, just be Catholic.
Just be Catholic.
Just be Catholic, yeah.
Okay, do you want to wrap this up?
Wait, Dave's full. Is Trevor a traditionalist? Like not in I'm not a traditionalist. It is also depends on what you mean by tradition. A lot of my beliefs are pretty trad. Like I love altar rails, I love ad orientem. Like so there's a lot of things like that. I'm pretty traditional on the liturgy and stuff. But I also believe that maintaining the church's living voice is really important. Sometimes I think traditionalists have like almost like a servile, like a relation to faith, whereas like we have a responsibility to keep the faith alive. So I don't know. Like some people, like some of the people I work with think that I'm like this uber like too Catholic guy. That I'm like, Trevor, you need to loosen up a bit. And I'm like, no, I'm great. You know, I'm great. Anyway, so maybe the answer is maybe.
This dude got nice eyebrows. I agree. I think Trevor's eyebrows are probably his best feature. James Wright II.
The first time I got bullied in middle school was because of my eyebrows.
I think, okay, so
they're like, those are some big eyebrows.
We think that like he grew into his eyebrows, and I was the same where like I had really big lips when I was younger, and I like grew into my lips. So I think it's similar, where like when a feature starts, then your face doesn't fully develop yet. I would love to read something written by Trevor. Oh, my wife and I are buying a house, but we'll have to leave our parish, and I'm very sad about it. Oh, but happy at the same time. I watched your videos, but first I didn't like them because they were Catholic, and I slowly got more interested in Catholicism, and now I am watching your videos more and more. Thank you. Please become Catholic. We would love you to become part of our church so much. Alexander, Lizzie, when you said that the atheist had pretty hair, were you trying to make her feel safe, or did you actually have the profound impulse to make a remark on her beautiful hair? I actually had the profound impulse to make a comment on her beautiful hair. I really, really love that shade. She's talking about a video I made on Jacqueline Glenn, one of my atheist cringe videos. There's 3 so far, so if you want to watch them, look up Lizzie's answer is atheist cringe Jacqueline Glenn. That's truth. You both have good eyebrows. Okay, so we're gonna go. We want to spend the rest of the day together before I have to call my parents, and then I have my Zoom call with my friends. We have to make dinner. I was gonna bake a cake, but I don't know if we're gonna do that anymore. I don't really feel like it, so we can buy a cake somewhere.
Yep.
I still haven't grown into my head. Trevor, will you ever write a book? Yeah, he's been doing a lot of publishing. He's been doing book chapters and stuff so far.
I have like only a couple. I have like 1 or 2 articles out right now, but in like a year, I'll have like 8 or 10 will be printed in books and in journals. So look forward to, I'm writing a book chapter on Lord of the Rings, people. So look forward to that if you're a Lauder fan. Yeah.
Okay, we love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Bye.